Why you keep failing at life? Nietzsche says you're looking in the wrong direction. You've tried everything. Books, goals, meditation. And still, something inside you feels broken. You wake up tired. You chase purpose and it slips away. You succeed on paper, yet nothing feels real. Maybe the truth is simpler. Maybe you're failing because you're facing the wrong way. Nietzsche wouldn't comfort you. He'd destroy what you cling to. He'd tear apart your dreams, only to show you they were never yours to begin with. You're not failing at life. You're failing at the life they programmed you to chase. The lie. The illusion. The borrowed mask. This isn't about motivation. It's about waking up in a burning house and realizing you built it yourself. This video won't comfort you. It's a mirror, a knife, a door. If you still have the courage, open it. But don't expect to come out the same. Hit like, subscribe, and let's begin your descent. Part 1. You're failing because you trusted the map. You were told where to go, what to become, who to impress. And like a good soldier, you obeyed. You took the path. You followed the map. You ignored the shaking in your chest. You silenced the small voice that whispered, "This isn't it." Now you wake up, lost, exhausted, defeated. But here's the truth Nietzsche would have screamed in your face. You're not lost. You're exactly where society wanted you to end up. You mistake failure for personal weakness. But you were never meant to succeed at this. What you call ambition is just obedience in disguise. You're not failing because you didn't try hard enough. You're failing because you tried to win a game that kills your soul when you play it right. You've mastered the art of self-betrayal. And no amount of positive mindset will fix that. Because the map you were given doesn't lead to truth. It leads to a prison with mirrors on every wall. And the face staring back isn't yours. Nietzsche wouldn't pity you. He'd tear the mask off. He'd show you the wound beneath the smile. The one that festers every time you lie to yourself. You pretend to want the job, the house, the partner, the clean image. But if I stripped all that away, what would be left? Can you even answer that without listing something someone else taught you to want? This is where the fracture begins. Not in your failure, but in your false success. You think your problem is lack of motivation. But what if the real problem is direction? Every day you run faster toward a finish line that was placed there by men who profit from your exhaustion. Your burnout is not from doing too much. It's from doing the wrong thing for too long. And the more you push forward, the more your soul pulls back. That tension in your chest isn't anxiety. It's the scream of your real self drowning. Nietzsche saw modern man as sick. Not because he lacked options, but because he was sedated by too many. The abundance of choice masks the absence of meaning. You think freedom is having options. But real freedom is having the courage to throw the script away. You were not born to fit their frame. You were born to burn it down and build something ancient from the ashes. But to do that, you must first admit this. You trusted the wrong map. And now it's time to set it on fire. Part 2, Nietzsche's truth. Nietzsche didn't come to heal you. He came to confront you. To stand at the edge of your illusion and whisper, this is the lie that's killing you. You mistake comfort for peace. You confuse productivity with purpose. And in your desperate climb toward a future that isn't yours, you abandon the only thing that ever was. Your raw, untamed, unbearable truth. The reason you keep failing is simple. You've never stopped to ask who you are without the performance. You fear silence because in silence you hear the voice that terrifies you. Not the voice of the world, but the one buried beneath years of obedience. The voice that doesn't want more. It wants out. Out of the roles. Out of the grind. Out of the hollow ritual of pretending to be a functioning adult while your soul rots quietly inside. Nietzsche looked at modern man and saw a walking contradiction. A creature designed for chaos, tamed into a bureaucrat. He warned that our failure wasn't random, it was engineered. Society doesn't want awakened men. It wants useful ones. It wants your compliance, not your fire. And the more docile you become, the more successful they call you. But Nietzsche saw the sickness underneath. Your conformity is a tombstone. You feel it already. The ache when you smile in meetings. The nausea when you post things you don't believe in. The quiet panic when you realize your goals aren't yours. You're not broken. You're over-domesticated. You've betrayed your primal inheritance for applause from dead-eyed strangers. You were a lion. Now you're a house cat begging for treats. Nietzsche believed that man was not meant to obey systems, but to overcome them, to transcend false gods, to burn through every identity until only the eternal remains. But to do this, you must first face the abyss, the black hole of not knowing who you were without their labels. And most men would rather die than do that. So they keep running in circles, calling it ambition. They wear chains proudly, calling it commitment. Every time you fail, it's not punishment. It's a signal. A sacred wound demanding your attention. But instead of listening, you medicate. You double down. You tell yourself, next time I'll get it right. But Nietzsche would stop you there. He'd ask, right according to whom? The system that bred you to serve? The market that profits from your dissatisfaction? The church that shamed your body and named your instincts sin? Your failure is not failure. It's a rebellion. It's your soul tearing at the seams of a suit that never fit. It's the divine screaming through the cracks of your manufactured persona. But instead of bowing to this holy destruction, you run. You hide in productivity, in distractions, in philosophies that promise success without transformation. But Nietzsche offered no such comfort. He didn't want you to become better. He wanted you to become real. And reality is brutal. Reality is unfiltered chaos. And to stand in it without armor, that is where the real strength begins. The truth? You are failing because part of you is still alive. And that part refuses to play dead anymore. Part 3, the silent architect of your collapse. You think you chose this life. But your choices were shaped before you knew what choice meant. The school taught you to sit still. The family taught you to please. The church taught you to suppress. And society? It taught you to smile while dying inside. By the time you were old enough to speak your truth, you had already forgotten what it sounded like. You spoke their language. You worshipped their gods. You chased their trophies. And when the weight of it all started crushing you, they offered pills, promotions, or a vacation. Not freedom. Not truth. Just a stronger sedative. Nietzsche saw society not as a neutral backdrop, but as a factory mass-producing mediocrity. It rewards you for being tame, punishes you for being wild. And when your spirit resists, it diagnoses you as defective. Not depressed, disobedient. Not broken, dangerous. And the treatment? Conform harder. Swallow more. Pretend better. The system is designed to keep you busy, so busy that you never stop to ask, who built this? The 9-to-5 treadmill. The morality that shames your instincts. The media that sells you fear. The influencers who look free but are shackled by algorithms. You think you're failing. But the truth is more disturbing. You're succeeding at being who they trained you to be. And that version of you was never meant to thrive. Society is not a villain with a face. It's a ritual. A whisper in your bloodstream. A silence passed from father to son. Don't feel too much. Don't question too loudly. Don't stand out. This is the architecture of your collapse. Not loud. Not violent. Just subtle. Suffocating. Invisible. They built systems that reward numbness and call it professionalism. They built religions that shame desire and call it holiness. They built economies that extract your life force and call it success. And when you start to break, they say, something's wrong with you. But Nietzsche's finger would point elsewhere. Not inward, not outward, but deeper toward the machinery beneath the floorboards of modern life. Your burnout is not accidental. It's the cost of maintaining a lie. The friction of your truth grinding against the roles you were assigned. You were not born to sit at desks and smile through soul death. You were not made to be efficient. You were made to be alive. And everything around you was designed to make you forget that. But there's a reason you're here. A reason you're watching this. Something in you hasn't been fully domesticated. It growls when you're alone. It rages when you obey. It aches when you wake up to another day of wearing the mask. That's not your weakness. That's your resurrection. Nietzsche called it the will to power. Not over others, but over your own becoming. And before you can reclaim it, you must identify the thief. The thief is not one man. It is a culture, a silence, a system. It smiles at your despair and calls it normal. It kills your soul politely, and you thank it. Part 4, the sacred violence of becoming. Pain doesn't mean you're lost. It means you've stopped lying. For the first time, your nervous system is no longer numb enough to fake a smile. And it hurts. Of course it hurts. This is what waking up feels like. Not clarity. Not joy. But fire. Devouring everything false you once called you. They never told you that becoming real is violent. They sold you healing as soft, spiritual, peaceful. But Nietzsche knew better. He knew that truth arrives not as a whisper, but as a hammer. You're not here to improve. You're here to break. Not because you're weak, but because your false self has grown too thick to be peeled. It must be shattered. The agony you feel is not a symptom of failure. It's the sacred initiation into truth. This is the death of the obedient version of you. The version that nodded at lies. That worked jobs that drained you. That dated out of fear and stayed out of guilt. You built a life around avoidance. And now that life is crumbling. Good. Let it collapse. Most people run from this moment. They label it depression. They call it burnout. They self-medicate. But what if your pain is not a sickness, but a signal? What if it's the price of stepping into the wilderness of your real identity? The wolves are howling for a reason. You're not dying. You're transforming. Nietzsche warned us. You must be willing to burn in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? This is the flame. This is the moment where every comfortable lie starts to suffocate. Your roles, your fake smiles, your perfect little goals. Burn them. Watch them turn to dust. And in that smoke, see the outline of something ancient. You. But don't expect applause. This path has no audience, no medals, no viral quotes. This path is raw and ugly, It will strip you of your certainty. It will kill your image. It will exile you from the herd. But that exile is holy. There's a moment when the pain becomes unbearable. And in that moment, something shifts. You stop asking, "How do I fix this?" And you start asking, "What needs to die in me?" That's the real initiation. The blood is symbolic. The screams are ancient. The suffering is sacred. Nietzsche didn't romanticize pain. He revered it. Not for the suffering itself, but for what it reveals. It's the only thing that can't be faked. The only doorway they can't monetize. When you suffer without hiding, you touch something eternal. And that touch changes you forever. This is not therapy. This is metamorphosis. You are not being improved. You are being reborn. But the midwife is agony. The temple is your broken mind. The offering is everything you thought you were. Part 5, the threshold where men disappear. There comes a point where every man must choose. Not between success and failure. Not between light and darkness. But between continuing the lie or becoming the thing he was always meant to be. And that choice is not made in comfort. It's made at the edge of sanity. Where the known dissolves. Where language breaks. Where you either vanish or resurrect. Most never make it past this point. They feel the ground cracking. They see their reflection fragment. And they retreat. Back into roles. Back into approval. Back into sedation. Because the raw self is terrifying. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't seek consensus. It burns every rule and leaves you naked with a single question. Will you obey your soul or your fear? Nietzsche called this the moment of self-overcoming. Not self-help. Not self-love. Self-overcoming. A brutal act. A death ritual. Not of the body, but of the false self. The ego. The performer. The pleaser. The corporate avatar. The boy in a man's clothes. And this death? It will cost you everything that made you socially acceptable. This is why most men abort the process. They flirt with truth but marry comfort. They touch the fire, scream, and swear it off forever. They go back to their families, their job titles, their social media versions. Smiling, efficient, dead. And the world rewards them for it. Raises them as examples. But you can see it in their eyes. The hunger, the spiritual erosion, the rage with nowhere to go. You don't need more advice. You don't need another life hack. You need a funeral. A sacred, intentional destruction of what you've outgrown. That's the real fork in the road. And no one can walk it for you. There is no guide. No mentor. No step-by-step program. There is only the flame and your willingness to stand inside it. This is the test that separates men from shadows. And most fail it not because they are weak, but because they are still addicted to who they think they're supposed to be. The identity is a drug, and withdrawal feels like death. But on the other side is something terrifyingly beautiful. Not happiness, not safety, but freedom. Nietzsche never promised peace. He promised power. The kind that rises when you no longer need the world to approve of you. The kind that emerges from standing alone, howling at the night, knowing no one is coming to save you, and smiling anyway. The final choice is not made once. It is made every day. Every time you're tempted to shrink, to nod, to fake it. Every time you feel the old version tug at your sleeve, offering you an easier way. And every time you say no, you reclaim another fragment of your soul. Part 6, the return to what was buried. You don't become yourself. You remember. Not with your mind, but with your body, your bones, your blood. There's something ancient buried beneath the personality you perform. Something raw, unpolished, untamed. And it's been waiting for you to finally stop pretending. This isn't evolution. It's excavation. You were not meant to invent yourself. You were meant to reclaim what was stolen. The wildness, the instinct, the inner voice you silenced to survive. They buried it under discipline, under politeness, under shame, and called it maturity. But Nietzsche knew what they were really doing. They were turning gods into clerks. When you strip away the false layers, what emerges isn't a man who has it all together. What emerges is chaos with a spine. A storm that speaks. A force that bends reality because it no longer bends to it. That's what they fear. That's what they tried to keep asleep inside you. Because a man who remembers what he is can't be controlled. This return is not clean. You will scream. You will grieve for all the years you wasted chasing approval. You will hate the masks you once called goals. But beneath the anger, beneath the shame, there's a silence. And in that silence lives the truth. You never needed to become anything. You only needed to stop running from what you already are. Nietzsche called this the eternal recurrence. Not just of time, but of truth. It comes back. Again and again. In your dreams. In your breakdowns. In the quiet moments between distractions. It never left. You did. Now the return begins. Not to who you were, but to what was buried beneath who you pretended to be. And that return will cost you everything that was fake. But what you gain, no one can give. No one can steal. No one can validate. Because it's yours. It always was. You will walk differently. Speak differently. Desire differently. Not because you learned something new, but because you stopped choking on what was never yours to swallow. You'll see the world through predator eyes again. Not to dominate, but to see. Clearly. Fully. Without filters, without compromise. This is what it means to be dangerous. Not violent. Not reckless. But awake. A man who knows his nature cannot be caged. He may live among others, but he no longer belongs to them. And in that exile, he finds his temple. No, you're not burned out. You're not a failure. You're not weak. You're spiritually starving. And the feast begins when you stop begging and start hunting. Stop seeking comfort. Start reclaiming fire. That's how you return. Not with answers, but with blood in your mouth and your soul in your hands. Part 7, what was taken can still be reclaimed. You were never meant to live like this. Half awake. Half alive. Performing a version of yourself that others can digest. But the real you, the raw, unfiltered, untamable core, it's still there. Buried, not broken. Asleep, not gone. And it's waiting for one thing. Your permission. The failure you feel is not the end. It's the first honest signal that something false is dying. And now, you have a choice. You can go back. Back to the comfort, the noise, the sedatives. Or you can go forward. Alone. naked, uncertain, but real. Nietzsche didn't offer hope. He offered fire. And through that fire, you earn your shape. Not the one they gave you, the one that was forged before language, before obedience, before the world told you who you should be. There is nothing more dangerous than a man who has stopped lying to himself. And that man, he is born in moments like this, not through understanding, but through surrender, not to society, but to the truth that lives beneath your skin. You're not failing at life. You're being pulled away from the version of life that was designed to fail you. Let it collapse. Let it burn. And when the smoke clears, step forward. What was taken can still be reclaimed.